Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Tonight, the Board of Trustees is meeting in its regularly scheduled monthly meeting to officially act on items included in the posted agenda. The Board and Administration welcome and appreciate comments and input from the community. Open forum is provided at each meeting to allow the public to address the Board. There will be 2 open forums tonight. Open forum number 1 is to hear requests regarding agenda items only. Open forum 2 is to hear requests or make comments regarding non-agenda items and will be heard at the end of the meeting. Those addressing the board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. The speaker should identify his or her name and residential address, group affiliation if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if a person addressing the board has attempted to resolve a concern informally or through the district complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. It is expected that you will observe the rules of courtesy and respect for the rights of others when addressing the board. The board president always reserves the right to set the procedures and standards for audience communication with the board. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. All right, I'm going to take a moment to introduce our student ambassadors this evening. Tonight we have with us Madison Metcalf, a senior at LD Bell, and we also have Kara Cooper, also a senior at LD Bell. If you want to come up and we can ask you a question real quick.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
So your question for tonight is, what skills do you hope to gain or improve by participating in the Student Ambassador Program this year?
So this year as a student ambassador, I hope to further improve my leadership and public speaking skills. As a returning ambassador, I'm ecstatic to be able to further my leadership skills by mentoring my new student ambassadors through our buddy system that we have in the program. And in terms of my public speaking skills, I hope to gain more confidence this year when asked to speak in public. Thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to a great year.
Thank you.
All right. So this year, I think I'm really looking forward to improving my leadership, and I would also say my networking skills. Being a returning ambassador, I would really like to be an example for those who are coming into the program, just to kind of lead them along so that they can take our spot once we go off. With networking, I feel like that's such an important part of this district, and knowing that we're going to be back in the schools this year, I know that that's a really big opportunity for us to network for the district and to promote everything so great about HEB. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison and Kara. We're really excited to see you guys this year and to get to have more opportunities to get to know the ambassadors overall. We're going to start with the review of our board activity chart. Would you like to start, Dawn?
Yes, we got to attend I want to call it, well, I guess it was a tour. It really wasn't a ribbon cutting. So a tour of Oakwood Terrace Elementary, which is beautiful. I definitely took lots of pictures and look forward to the students getting to experience it, hopefully soon.
I forget Julie's not here. I've done a lot of fun stuff. So we welcomed our new student ambassadors, and that was great to get to kind of watch them in their orientation. I loved that very much. Thanks for letting me cry my eyes out because it was so great to see those kids. Oakwood Terrace, probably my favorite thing that we've done. I have a soft spot for that school anyway, and to see what this district has done and the fact that we paid for that out of fund balance, it just made me very proud of our district. And I drove through a little while ago and had popsicles with the principal at Bel Air to welcome their new principal and their new assistant principal. And today we welcome back the new professionals, so that was fun to represent the school board and the HEB ISD Foundation board that I sit on. So we're excited about all those new teachers. I can't wait to get in their classrooms.
This year, Leadership TASB began, and Kay Douglas is going to be my teacher this year. So we had our very first virtual meeting. The rest of them are going to be in in person. It was, Kay Douglas is just awesome. She's been teaching for a long time for school boards, mainly focused on poverty, so very, very excited to have her. I got to attend the Grapevine Chamber of Commerce. It's always a blast to see the chambers meet together. And then I want to echo what Matt and Rochelle started. It was just awesome today to see more than 200 new teachers coming into our district, and just they're very excited. They can't wait to teach the kids. It's just neat to be around them.
All right, thank you. I had a couple opportunities to speak to some groups, starting with the principals last week when they had their leadership symposium. So that was a lot of fun to get to go and just see all those principals again in the same room, and actually get to walk around and talk to them and share a little word from them with them from the board. And then this morning I also got to talk to the new professionals, so that was a lot of fun too. So are there any superintendent comments?
Yes, I have just a couple of things. I want to take a point of privilege this evening to thank several people, some of whom are in the audience and some who are not. I want to start with our Human Resources Department. They're here this evening to say a huge thank you to our Human Resources Department for everything they have done to get all of our new employees processed so that they could be there and participate in our new professional experiences today. What you don't know is they've been working on the weekends, they've been working late into the night, because once a principal makes a recommendation or a director makes a recommendation, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that they have to complete. So I want to just say thank you to you guys for making it possible for all of our folks to be there this morning. That's important to us. We really work hard to try to do that. And then you've heard the new professional luncheon mentioned. I want to say a huge thank you to our Education Foundation. They are such great partners. They provided the luncheon today. They provided a number of great door prizes for our new professionals, so we always appreciate their support, and we look forward to this event. And then finally, although she's not here this evening, I'd like to say a huge thank you to our Coordinator for Professional Development, Dr. Angelique Brading. There is a lot that goes into this new professional week and just getting ready for that, and she certainly got it kicked off this morning in a grand way. So I just wanted to, even though she's not here, say thank you, Dr. Angelique Brading.
Thank you. Were there any clarifications from questions?
I know we've taken care of any of those.
All right. Is there any cards for open forum 1? No? All right. Then at this time, we are going to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Texas Open Meeting Act 551.074 or 071 through 074. All right, we are returning from closed session. And the first item is 7.01, approval of an elementary assistant principal. I will take a motion.
I move that the board approves the appointment of Brandy Anderson as the assistant principal at Harrison Lane Elementary School as submitted.
I have a motion to approve. Oh, sorry. And no second? Yeah. Okay, I have a motion and a second now to approve the appointment of Brandy Anderson as assistant principal at Harrison Lane Elementary School. Please vote. I got nothing.
Matt's got a gremlin.
Yeah, Miss Anderson, if you'd like to stand up and introduce some people who are here with you tonight.
I have my two mentors, and soon to be, or is now, my principal, Shannon Huber, trained me last year to do this job, so I'm really proud to have her here with me. And then Debbie Day, she has been my mentor since day one of coming into HEB. She was my team leader my very first year teaching, and then we made it back together after 10 years or whatever, and I've been with her for a very long time. I couldn't be groomed and trained by a better person. Taught me CI the perfect way, so I'm excited. And then I'm just shout out to my family that is watching. My husband, he's out of town in California, but without them, without your family, your support system, your cheerleaders, you just aren't going to make it where you are. So I'm very lucky to have all of this support system, and I'm very proud to now be a Harrison Lane Bulldog.
Congratulations. All right, we're going to start with our consent agenda. Did any board member have anything on the consent agenda they wanted to remove?
Just to follow up on a couple of items. Conrad, on 807, the school resource officers, do we have any update or plan going forward on talking to the city's timeline? I know this won't go to the cities until their next meeting in August.
Yes, that's correct. So when you ask regarding timeline as to which part of that?
Do we plan on reaching out to them about the salary and benefit costs before or after that?
Well, I believe that considering we've been in the contract negotiations prior to this, that we're going to visit with them after the fact. But we did make those changes, and I believe Mr. Chapman did update them on those changes, and I think all went well. Okay. So they are updated to the specifications that you requested at last board meeting.
Yeah, that looks good. And then whenever you reach out to them afterwards, will you report back to us?
Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you. And then, Matt, I did have one question on 809.
Okay.
If I may. This did come to us in the work session, but Cicely, are these the same numbers that we got for the previous year? Are they carried over? Are these new costs? Is she here?
Yeah, she's here. Yeah, the Power School renewal.
Yeah, that's a Power School, which has all the different
you, David?
technology components. I don't have the number. I can get that for you. I did not realize you were looking to see what the cost was, so I will get that number for you. I can't remember what the cost was for human resources, that component of it.
Okay.
But I will get that for you.
Yeah. So, and we're approving the quotes on these, correct?
Yes.
Is there a contract with Power School that goes along with the quotes?
Yes.
Okay. And have we reviewed that internally?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
And it's a renewal contract, so it annually renews, and then they just give us any price increases based on usage. If we have increased data usage from year to year, then they look at that in developing that price quote. So Yes, it is part of the contract, and we have reviewed it and approved it.
Okay, very good.
That's part of our purchasing department process, and Hector Cordonia reviews all those contracts.
Okay. Going forward, if there's a contract, can you attach that into our communique so I can see it as
Absolutely.
well?
Yes, sir.
I found it. It looked good. I want to make sure we had reviewed it. Okay, thank you.
All right, so I will accept a motion on the consent agenda.
I move that I move that the board approves the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Please vote. Logged in as Julie Cole. Well, I'll log out and log back in. We'll be passing out some certificates of appreciation, and Ms. Ross will be reading those off for us.
The first one is presented by Board Member Matt Romero. It is from 7-Eleven, store number 38932 to Veridian Elementary. $711 to go towards instructional materials and student and teacher incentives. Ms. Mann's the principal, and Bashal Archara will accept the certificates. The next one will be presented by Board Member Don Jordan Wells. It is an anonymous donor to Trinity High School in the amount of $1,500 to go towards a scholarship for 3 Trinity High School students. And Conrad Streeter will accept the certificate. Next one will be presented by Board Member Andy Cargile from 7-Eleven to Trinity High School in the amount of $711 to be split between the principal's discretion fund and guidance testing. And Conrad Streeter will accept this certificate.
All right, we really appreciate those contributions, and they really help these different schools do the work that they're trying to do. Let's see, we're to 10.01, employment resignations and retirements. Are there any questions on that? All right. Just.
Yes. I was gonna ask that, maybe because you get tired of answering me.
So we have 7.5 elementary positions, including regular classroom teachers at ESSER remaining open, and 15 secondary. So we're at 22.5.
Are all 15 ESSER on secondary?
7 are ESSER, 8 are teachers, and we have hired 164 teachers.
Great.
That's crazy.
All right. Item 10.02, disbursements for the month of June 2021. Are there questions on that? Item 10.03, summer projects update. David Garcia and Josh Miner.
Well, I will step up just to introduce the Executive Director, Josh Miner, is going to give us a report on all our projects that are ongoing for this summer. So, Josh?
Make sure we're synced. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to be here tonight. I'm going to talk about the maintenance and summer projects and give you guys an update to all of that. What we're going to be able to cover is everything from the junior highs. We'll be wrapping those up, the elementary school, and then West Hurst Elementary, along with some Pennington Field and the portable moves. So right now, we're getting real close to wrapping up everything at Harwood and Bedford. What we're focused on the outside is trying to grow grass. We're trying to get that field smoothed up. On the inside, we got the louvers. We've finished all of our testing. All that's going back together real nice right now. By the end of this week, Bedford will be all buttoned up. May have a little bit of paint, a little brickwork, but outside that, we'll be wrapping all that up. Punch lists are being completed, so we're really looking at the end of this week or next. One thing we did do is we worked with the coaches, just let them know that we won't be, it's going to be cutting it close to get the kids for 2 days back onto the football fields. So they know contingency plan is to go ahead and just be on the competition field. We'll do that for a couple weeks and we'll be fine. Here in a second, I'll show you hardwoods. This one's lagging. It was lagging by a few weeks when they put the turf down, so it's no surprise that we're lagging a little bit with it growing in. And we're also going to do one more top dressing to make everything smooth out nicely and then do some treating on the grass. Then hardwood. Like I said, this one's looking a lot better. You can see, too, the other picture didn't show it, but if you drive by, you'll see white pipes laying all over the ground. The requirement is they have to make sure that grass grows in, so they put in temporary irrigation. So we have that all over. Then we hydromulched all of the dirt, so it's growing in right now, but they still have to be able to make sure that it's watered and taken care of until we can take that over. The field over at Harwood looks a lot better, looks nice. It's really nice and smooth, growing in nicely. I think we only have maybe one more top dressing there, and we'll be ready to go. Louvers, as you can see in this picture, it's complete. There's no more kind of patchwork hole in the side of the building. On the other side, it's all done, and everything's painted out nicely. One thing to note, if you drive by, they were supposed to have pulled it out, but the goalpost was crooked. The landscaper, it's kind of one of the things. You put the one thing out in the middle of a parking lot, I guarantee you that's what someone's going to drive into. The landscaper was smoothing up the walls, backed right into the goalpost and broke it. So they'll have to pull that out, replace everything. We were telling them to pull everything out without equipment. They're actually going to have to hand dig that out because we're trying to keep that grass to grow in. So I don't want to take another chance of something else going up there and damaging anything. After this, to kind of go with both of the junior highs, we will have some small work that has to be taken care of next year, over the next couple years. One would be the front drive. We were going to do the front drive at Bedford. And to be honest, that was just too much work, too short time, and just you're beating the campus up too much. So we will bring that to you in November at the facility board meeting, just to let you know, here's what we're looking at for the front drive, and we'll have that replaced and modified. Then we just got some small stuff inside. Those courtyards, you got some uneven concrete. A couple flower beds that were supposed to have been removed, they didn't get taken out. So we'll be working to take care of those and fixing up it's just called the loose strings of going between the construction and then what we're doing at maintenance. We just got to tie those two together and kind of clean everything up. Oops. All right, Hurst and Central, really the only thing we were basically done. Retainage was being sent through. We were finalizing all that. We just had a little bit of testing. We saw that there's an engineering letter that has to be in the closeout documents. Without that letter, they cannot do the retainage. And so we went back just to make sure and do some testing on the storm doors and storm windows. Everything came back nicely, so they'll be putting back all the brick and cleaning that up, and that'll be done. Have no concerns that we'll be creating a delay or any undue burden on the principals there. I would tell you one thing. On Hurst, we did just find out that one of the goalposts was off. It was moved the wrong direction, 15 feet. So they will pull that out. We will readjust. They'll put that back in. So, I mean, if you really want to say it is a joke about moving the goalposts, I mean, we are moving them all over the place. So. Oakwood Terrace. Now, I know some of you were able to come by. And it kind of scares. If you're not in construction, it will scare you. But just to give you an update on the last 2 weeks, or about a little more than a week ago, We have now poured over 1,200 yards of concrete, and by the end of this Friday, we will have poured 1,700 yards of concrete. That finishes up all the drives, the sidewalks, the approaches, all of the piers for the awnings, the playground hard court, some other ADA approaches. So we will have all the concrete done by the end of this week. Quite a feat too when you're competing. 1,700 yards, you think that's a lot? That's actually, we were getting bumped because somebody was bigger than us, and we were trying to get 500 and 700 yards of concrete, and they were pushing us to 3 o'clock in the morning so we could get it. So anyways, we've worked with the city. That's been coming in really nicely. Admin, they're already moved in, settling into their offices and preparing for professional development upcoming this week and next week. The schedule is looking nice. We're working with the city of Euless. They've allowed us, it's a little bit of an exception for them, to allow us to get the admin in the building so we didn't have to have them remote. So then we also are bringing in new teachers can be in there this week. They're going to allow that. And we're also going to be able to bring some of the returning teachers to come back so that they can start looking at their classrooms and getting prepared for next week so that they can start unpacking and moving in. And then they're actually going to be able to do PD in their own school. So there's no more shuffling. We're not pushing them to other schools or trying to have people run all over the district. They're actually, the city's going to work with us on that. And we will start, and I've been saying this, I mean, you heard from the day we turned dirt, I told you, we will open the school with a temporary certificate of occupancy. We will probably be putting plants in right as the kids are walking in, but we will, it will make it. We opened Viridian the exact same way, so everything is on the same kind of schedule as it was with that. And right here, that's what I was going to say too. That's why I told you 1,700, because when I come back up this slide, it actually says 1,200, but we were able to squeeze a few more in there before, by the time I could put this together. And you can see that's the fire lanes that were up against the building. We had actually brought in 2 pour trucks, or 2 pump trucks to be able to do this, and they were only going to have 1, and they actually brought in one of the biggest ones in this area. It had 3 axles on the front end, and I've got a picture that shows concrete trucks, and they would only let 5 of them sit on the street in front of people's houses, but we had them stacked up 5 in a row coming into the site, so they were making sure we could get that done. Matter of fact, right there's a good picture of it. I'm trying not to geek out because, you know, there's those of us in construction, and you're out there, and you're like, this is, it scares you, but at the same time, you're like, this is how we get things done. And honestly, too, is Miller Sierra. Joris, we got a great superintendent. You know, he worked really hard with Miller Sierra. Miller went out and said, you know what, there's a way we can skin this cat 2 other ways. So they could only get 200, so they secured that with one company, and they went and got 500 yards from another concrete company, and then they brought in another concrete pumper. And so that's how we're making that happen, is because we value and use valued contractors, they're the ones who made that work. Other people are just sitting back going, well, that's all we can do. That's not the kind of people we work with.
Josh, I like the fact that you all told us on the tour that you would, that you all went door to door and letting the neighbors know what was to be expected and making sure they weren't surprised by things like that happening.
And it wasn't just one time. We've done that throughout the entire job. Stoney, Esmeralda has gone around to letting them know when we was tearing the building down, because wildlife tends to be pushed to other places. And when we're doing something loud, we're going to have some loud equipment, and letting them know that you are losing the playground. So they have done that on a regular basis, just gone around the houses, dropping off flyers, shaking hands, talking to people, trying to make sure that we maintain that good relationship with our neighbors. On here, I put this in here for a reason, because when I went the first time and I looked at it, I got a little nervous just because it looked too uniform. You've seen we've done some of the lime coat in other places, but and originally it was kind of shiny and it looked too uniform. There's another wall to the left of it, and it wasn't going to match, I didn't think. But we said, let's give it a little bit, let's let it cure in. As it cured in, you start seeing that uneven kind of texture and color, and that's what we were looking for. So once it started curing in, it looks a lot better because it matches the natural stone that is just kind of probably 20, 30 feet away from there, so it's looking a lot better. And the inside, I was just telling David, they're moving so quickly that this isn't even, by the time I could get the most up-to-date picture to you, that's not what the cafeteria looks like. They're already starting to get the ceilings in. All that equipment is out of there now. We're actually starting terrazzo this week on the floors. The stage has been poured in. All the stage tile has all been wrapped in. And then the kitchen, we're starting up the freezer, walk-in coolers. Those are done. All the equipment's in there. They're starting to pull off the protective coatings and things like that. And then here's a good way of showing, we call it pool planning in construction, but it would be like what you call systems approach or continuous improvement. is he's planning as he goes around the building. So landscaping is actually starting right there in front of the office windows, and then they're moving as he starts cleaning. They're shifting around the building. So flagpoles are up. We've got the decomposed granite. Landscapers will be bringing in plants later, but they'll usually bring all those in as a package. So you'll think we don't have landscaping happening, but we do. We've got a lot of cleanup and a lot of DG that's being put in place. And one thing too, a lot of people, they're really proud of this hall with the owls written down there. I think those of you who've seen it in person, really is pretty dramatic. It's going to be nice. Okay, West Hurst. I've talked to Debbie Day as well. She said she drives down this street on the regular when she's head down to Trinity Lakes. She drove down. They started tearing the building down. I've heard people say they come by and got a little tear, a little fist bump as they drive by the building. But just in one day, you can see the difference of what the demo company is doing there. By now, and you can see the perpetrator is now starting to pop out. The tree is what really created a lot of that damage, and we'll be pulling that tree down and getting it out of there. Most of the demo will be done. We'll be wrapped up in about end of next week. Not this week, but end of next week. Pennington Fields turf is now complete. We walked that with the contractor. As we were doing that, not a lot of really hiccups or anything. E-layer, those of you have been through this with us before. Last time we had no E-layer repairs. This one we just had some minor spots had delaminated, so we've made some, had the E-layer put back in there, so we were good to go with that. And this picture just doesn't do it justice. I mean, you gotta really be on top, and you can't see the watermark, but HEB, there's a watermark in the middle of the field now, and it's the HEB, and it was actually sized, so I was a little concerned that it was going to cover over certain of our lines, like soccer. You got the center field. I was a little worried about that, but actually we sized it down so that the soccer ring actually sits on the outside, so it doesn't cover over anything, and we don't cover over any of the hash marks, because that's what it would have happened if we had sized it the size of the soccer ring. So we narrowed that down, so it really looks nice. And for somebody who's played on that field before and has bad knees, walking across that is a dream now, because it really feels good. We played a rugby game on that a couple months ago, and it's dramatically improved.
Well, my 2020 grad son saw it posted on Twitter and was like, "Did you see that? It looks awesome."
It feels awesome. Tell him it feels awesome too. And the last one is, it's not real flashy or anything, but we were telling you, as we're wrapping up the bond, this is the last component of that. We moved 2 portables off of behind Bedford Junior High, and now those are sitting over at Bell High School. Now, at the time, there's no rush for it. We just wanted to get them moved over there, and then we'll be doing the underpinning, putting decks and ramps on them, and then we will outfit them, and that'll be into school by the time we start really doing and getting into some of that work. Harwood, we were getting ready to move those. We have 2 to move from there over to Trinity, and then 2 of them are going to leave us and go somewhere else. Right now, at first there was no need or desire, but when building materials shot through the roof, all of a sudden everybody kind of started wanting portables, and they would take just about anything that you had. So we might be able to get 2 of those, and so our options are, we're either going to auction it or we're going to give it to the mover at 0 cost either way, just a hand, it won't cost us anything. They'll take them and sell them, or the last case is we pay to have it just demoed right there on site, and if that's the best scenario. And so we'll be done with that. We don't have a schedule on that. We're just now starting to work on those. We actually were looking at moving Sped into there, but we've got them all at Harrison Lane, so everything's good. So we'll be working on that here soon. And that's all I have tonight. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Josh.
You bet.
All right, now it's time for our quarterly reports for executive leadership team.
All right, thank you. I have the quarter 3 report. We start off with the chart. The chart is showing all our results through quarter 3. Our quarter 3 results, again, for quarter 3, we have 13 success measures that are green, 1 yellow, 3 red, and 7 are no measure. No data on those. So we have 3 that we are reporting to the board tonight. The first one is 1.2B, 100% of kindergarten first and second grade students will meet end-of-year targets as defined by early reading assessment instruments in English and Spanish. If you look at this chart, this year's results are the yellow, and so as you can see, kind of as we expected, this year's targets did not meet expectations, and that measure is in red. It also aligns with the fact that early literacy will be a priority for us moving out of the pandemic. Our next measure is 1.5A, and that is 100% of campuses and district will achieve 97% or more student attendance rate. This year for the district, we are green at 97.3. That stayed strong all year, so attendance was definitely positive this year, and that measure is in the green. The final one today is 3.1B, campuses and departments will have 97% or higher annual average employee attendance. We are green with a rate of 97.7. So strong attendance there. That concludes quarter 3 report. If you have any questions.
Joe, I've heard some rumors that you're working on kind of repurposing this report to be a little bit more user-friendly, so when you click on a measure, you can actually see how we, what our percentage actually was compared to what our goal is.
Yeah, we are. Yes, that is true. We're converting from the quarterly report to more of a scorecard process, and so we will have a document that we can follow that will have all the results that will be clickable. We'll also, on the website, we'll have those measures that are what we would consider the highest interest for the public, and so they also can click on those measures and see those directly from the website. And then what we will do also, if you like that the process we show you, we'll work with the board also on the board goals or board measures and see if you would like it in the same form.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. A couple of questions on the graphs that you have here.
Yes, sir.
You know, we're certainly we didn't meet the goals that we wanted, and we expected that. How much of that do you attribute to COVID, though? I mean, what else is impacting that? Because I mean, if you look at 2017 to now, I mean, 2018 and 19, or at least 2018, had nothing to do with COVID. So can you speak a little bit to impacts other than COVID that you think went into these numbers?
There have been some changes. We have increased our expectations. So as we increased our expectations on some of the tests, it actually lowered those numbers, but we knew we had to raise the bar to get the kids where they needed to be. So we actually raised the bar of our expectations, so that did temporarily lower our scores. We knew also going in, not just COVID, that there was the Amplified change, or M-Class changed the test also. So it is don't get me lying. The Dibbles changed, and so it was a new version of that. So we did anticipate that those scores may go down again because they changed how they assess the students' levels, and we did anticipate some drop, not this. What we would say, to see these numbers in the yellow, we really feel like this was heavily COVID, losing that face-to-face work with the kids online, with early literacy. As we saw LaDonna's report, we've got to get the kids back in class. That's how we've done and have been successful.
Do you think our fifth-year target, as we have it laid out, is attainable?
Yes. I mean, we can get back where we need to be. We just have to get the kids back in class, and we've got to get back to the systems that we've put in place over these years. Leanna is working on a new plan. Again, she's following LaDonna to make sure that we can put these back to where we need to be and keep that growth in the positive. But these drops, I mean, these are heavily COVID. Yes.
And I think, Chris, that's a really good question, because really when we were going into COVID, we presented to the board results for kindergartners, and especially when you look at Dibbles. Dibbles is the phonemic awareness part of the testing. Then you're looking at the TRC, which is the text reading comprehension, their ability to read, their fluency, and comprehend what they're reading. We knew there were some challenges, that year, that spring, when we went into the COVID shutdown for our kindergarten kiddos, that was just exacerbated because kindergartners typically are going to gain a lot of those reading skills in those last few months. So that's a challenge, and it certainly has been exacerbated. And then the kiddos, so many of our kiddos being online and not being in class where we can actually do the small reading groups, the teachers can do the running records, they can assess those kids on an individual basis, can work with them. That was also problematic. So that's still our goal, but that is a great question. It is a lofty goal, and we're going to have to work very hard to achieve. But that's going to be a challenge. I'm just going to be very honest with you.
Yeah.
It is a big, hairy, audacious goal.
But we're going to keep our BHAGs. Yeah.
Joe, on the very last chart, are we missing the data, or is it still coming in for the 5th and 6 weeks for 2021?
Talk about 3.1.
Oh,
It'll be coming in.
oh, yes. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Harrington.
Thank you.
All right, item 10.05 is quarterly report for board members. We are kind of in a transition time right now because we have a new board member coming on, and we've lost one board member, so it's time to reorganize our goals and reorganize our goal teams. So I've already talked to, I think, all of you about reorganization. We're going to keep Don and Fred together, but we're going to visit about whether the goal that they're currently on that has to do with advocacy is still the right goal, or if they've done enough work on that goal that we can.
About it today. We want to keep it and have an implementation
Okay,
section now so that we can make sure that it's happening.
so you'll change the goal towards implementation rather than, okay. All right, Mr. Cargile is moving on to the facilities goal with Rochelle, and I'll also be participating in that because I was a member with Rochelle before, so I'll still be helping out with that goal. And then we'll have Mr. Brown and Julie Cole on a goal team also, working on our annual review of our board policies. So if everybody is okay with those assignments, then we will start working on those, and we'll work with the administration to schedule some times where we can get together and help and get some facilitation on it, so that we can keep moving forward on those goals.
So what Fred and I will do is reassign elected officials to each board member as a team, not just an individual.
Right. All right. 10.06, update on recruiting and retention efforts. Ms. Tuttle.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chapman, for inviting me to share this information with the board on some of the recruiting and retention strategies that we're using in our Human Resources Department with the goal of positively impacting our employee retention and recruitment. I want to introduce to you my Human Resources leadership team here in the back, as well as our support staff who are all watching online tonight. And want to let you know that I'm just here to represent our team of 12. A lot of the hard work and the folks that are closest to the work are actually sitting in this room and listening online. This shows you what our HR mission, vision, and our core values are. And certainly data is a very important part of what we do. We're very intentional about the work that we do. But we also realize that with the title of Human Resources, we are to steward the human beings in this district. And for us, that's the employees. And so tonight, I want to talk to you about quality teaching, administrative, and supportive staff, which is goal 3. And under that, we're going to touch on 3 areas. The first is employee engagement, then workforce branding, and then candidate outreach. There's a specific reason we're starting with retention, because we believe very strongly that we are missing the boat if we are spending more energy and investing more time in recruiting than we are on retaining our quality staff. And so that is our focus, is to always look at how we can keep our quality staff in place. And then anything in this presentation that's gold is either because it's one of those 3 topics or it's one of the bullets under. So we're going to start with employee engagement. We are very fortunate to have a PR and marketing department who support us by creating wonderful graphics and visually representing all of the special days and months for specific employee groups. And in HR, we use those to really have some leverage on recognizing our employees. And so these are just some examples of the ways we do that. You see here a slide on our auxiliary service employees. One of the things that Ms. Benavides has done in her first year with us is worked closely with our auxiliary departments, and she piloted a custodial retention program. And so giving custodians an opportunity to recommend other custodians, and if they are hired, then they get an HR branded item. And so that's just one small way, but also working with our subs and our, not our subs, our child nutrition and our bus drivers. And so if you look up in the top right corner, you see some cards that were actually on a door here in our building for our custodian. But one of the things that Tiffany has worked on is really providing an easy way for campuses to support these groups. And so for each of these days, she sends out an email template to each of the campuses that gives them some easy to print out things that they can write on, free things that we can do to really communicate the value our employees have. And then for our substitutes, in addition to our normal substitute day this year, because our substitutes really were essential for us, Tiffany worked with our PR and marketing department, and we actually had we had a substitute day for HBISD, and then there was an outstanding substitute award that campus administrators could nominate up to 2 individuals who had been incredible support on the campus, and those folks were invited to come to the Human Resources Department to get their prize, an HR logo item that they can then recruit with, and a certificate. And then we also had lots of tweets across the district from principals who recognized those folks on their campuses. And then some other things that we do to recognize our campus employees. Anytime we're on a campus to do a visit, walking the campus, you see the little 3 cards, we take those with us, and we have some magnetic clips, and when we're in a classroom, we just put one on the door frame as we leave so that they can see that their HR department appreciates them, sees them, notices them. But we also then want to tweet and share that information, send an email to the campus to let them know what we saw while we were there. And then you also see a partnership that we had earlier in the year last year with with Darla and Conrad's offices, where we went around to each of the campuses and delivered some ice creams on a very hot day to our campus administrators. So some things we can do to really let them know that they're appreciated. And then modeling through the way that we recognize our HR department, hopefully modeling for other departments how they can do the same. And then because our department is very fortunate to get to work with the LEAD HEB program, we really make sure that those folks understand that, yes, they're emerging leaders, but they're also employees, and we want them to know us personally. We want them to know that we're human beings as well, and we're here to support them as they learn and grow so that they feel comfortable reaching out and asking questions to us. And then really getting the word out about that program and letting them have the recognition they deserve for being a part of that program. Another thing we do is promote workforce community. And this is something that we believe is very important. One of the 12 indicators that Gallup uses to determine if an employee is engaged is whether they have a friend at work. And when we think of that, we think a friend that you go hang out with. But really, what they're talking about is someone who sees them and understands them as a person, not just an employee. And that is truly our goal in human resources. We say all the time, well taken care of employees produce well taken care of students. And so some of the ways we do that are through notes. We do a lot of note writing in human resources, but we also, of course, when an individual is out for a medical leave, if it's not something that's confidential, we will send them a note, sympathy cards, things of that nature. And then when a very unfortunate event happens, such as the loss of a staff member or the loss of a student, we prepare a small care package that we take to the counselor on the campus to leave in the teacher's lounge. Sometimes it's individual boxes of Kleenex that have a very specific message, and sometimes it's some treats. But just again, letting our employees know they are more than just an employee. They are a person, and we care about the things that are going on in their lives. And then this year, we decided to have a touch point with each employee, and we did we have been doing and are doing birthday cards, and we have gotten so many emails from employees thanking us for those, and then when we are out on campuses and in departments, we see those posted. So that's another way, again, that we can just take a moment to recognize them. And then one of the things that our benefits office does a phenomenal job of is really supporting our employees through different seasons of life. And one of those is when they're growing a family through adoption or through having a pregnancy, birth. And one of the things that Karen does is she provides these maternity meetings where so much great information is covered, all the way to this is the form that you take with you when you go to the hospital. This is the form the doctor needs to sign. But more importantly, we have spouses that come to those meetings because the information is so very valuable. And we have employees that come to these meetings when they're first beginning to plan to have a family. And so that's a way that we can partner with employees through different seasons. And then, of course, we're always excited about our future difference makers in HEB. And Karen has all of our folks who are adopting or having a child to send us a photo so that we can recognize them again for that very important season in their life. And then this year she did a special Twitter feature called Your Family is Our Family. And so you've probably seen some of those, but we always tweet. She just got one in yesterday and tweeted it. There's nothing like parents getting a chance to brag on, the birth of a child or adoption of a child. And so this is a way we can once again let them know how much we appreciate them and that we want to partner with them. Another thing that we do for employee engagement is encouraging followership on Twitter. And you see just a variety of things. Sometimes it's retweeting things that individuals have tweeted and then giving additional information to really recognize them. Other times it's just Monday inspirational messages when we know that it's been hard and it's been a long semester. We had a chance this spring. Mr. Hill and I went to Trinity and Tabell and checked out their spring football practice and tweeted about it. We wanted to show that support. So just ways that we can partner, again, with what is already happening and then get that word out. This summer, we just happened to have some employees that started tweeting where they were going on vacation. And some beautiful pictures started coming in, so we just started saying, HEB ISD people, what are you doing to relax and recharge? And it just really built up. So that was also fun to see so many different people sharing. And then we had an opportunity also this year to quote lots of great, strong leaders that are well known and just put those messages out there for our employees to see. And then our monthly Twitter contest, this is really part of helping employees to tell the story for us. And so we are very fortunate in HEB to have the best PR and marketing department out there, and they have created an HEB ISD brand, and it is a strong brand. And so what we're trying to do is create a workforce brand that lets people say, that's a place I want to work. That's a place I want to plant roots and invest in kids' lives. And so our monthly Twitter contest allows them to tweet out things that are going on their campus and their departments, and they can tag us in those, and then that automatically enters them in our monthly contest. And at the end of each month, we have some awards. We have sometimes most mentions. Sometimes we do, new kid on the block for somebody who's never tweeted before, different things like that. And again, the prizes for this contest are HR logo items that are also recruiting tools. And so we are trying to get some help from those employees who carry those around. And then also trying to always be proactive in communicating with employees. Whether it's memos, information, letting them know what's going on so that they can be equipped. And then at the end of this school year, we actually did an end-of-year employee communication to give them information about what they would need over the summer. And that really helped to cut down on some of the questions about where do I find this and how do I do this. I'm very excited to tell you that this year, for the first time since I've been in HR, this is the beginning of my 16th year in HR, and this is the first time that we have partnered with our instructional technology department to have our human resources it's not an orientation, it's basically a document verification where they have to come in person and they have to show us a couple items. We also have, it's the I-9 verification, sometimes a social security form for TRS, but this is the first year that we've had technology. They've come to the table and they've said, how can we partner with you? And they have said, let's plan these together. And so every time our employees come to this, they go down the hall and pick up their device and they leave with all of that. And the feedback has been phenomenal from our employees and their principals. And we are so appreciative of our technology department. It's taken all hands on deck, even folks from information services who've been helping. So I want to say thank you. But onboarding's a big deal. It's our first impression with an employee. And so we want to make sure we get that right and we don't take it lightly that for some employees, we're the first contact that they have with the district. And then we also always take their picture, and we'll be using these throughout the year, but these were just at our very first new hire session. We just onboarded an additional 85 last week, and they did an additional 25 today. So we're getting those folks done. And then another season is retirement. We have employees who are planning on retiring, and it is a lot of information to digest and understand. While none of us is a TRS representative, and we will never advise an employee on what options to choose, we have for many years provided informational meetings for employees to attend, find out about the TRS process, what it looks like, and our benefits department office partners with our HR coordinators, and these are very heavily attended, and some folks attend them for several years in a row to get that information, and so another way that we can partner with them. But offboarding is just as important. Offboarding is an underutilized tool in a lot of organizations. We want to make sure that when an employee leaves us, sometimes they're leaving us for good because they're moving out of state, or maybe they're not going to be in the profession anymore. But sometimes they're leaving us because of a season that they're in, that they have no control over, and they just might be ready to come back in a few years. Maybe they have a young child they need to be closer to home for, or an ailing parent. And so we want to make sure that we get feedback from them through our exit survey, and that we use that feedback as an executive leadership team to look at how we can continue to retain employees. But also, for the last 2 years, Margaret and I have had a process where I actually write a personal note at the bottom of each of these form letters that we send out, and I customize it to whatever was on the resignation form. So these are just some examples of employees that are leaving us for maybe reasons that were unexpected, but we want to let them know, if you ever in this area again, we respect your decision, but we'd love to see you back. And then the second area is that workforce branding that we've already touched upon. The first question some people ask us is, why Twitter? They'll say you can get so much more followership from Facebook and Instagram. And they are correct, you can. Twitter's a lot harder to build, but the bottom line is Twitter is one of the most prominent teacher networks, and it's also where a lot of people go for job searches. That's the tool that is used. So this is just some research to support that. Engaging with universities and graduates on Twitter. This is more than just liking their pages and following them. We spend a lot of time going in and seeing what they're doing. You see that we're following lots of universities in our area, out of our area, some historically black universities, some universities that produce a lot of bilingual candidates that are in our critical shortage area. And what we do is when we see something that's good, we comment on it and we like those things. You see here a graduate who is talking about getting ready to be a teacher. And so we made a note that, hey, you want to come work in HEB. And while these things are hard to measure, and I can't tell you what percentage of people are coming from these types of interactions, we know that they are making a difference. And then our annual recruiting campaign is always fun. Last year it was It Takes All of Us, and this year we've done HEB ISD, the place to be. So we asked our campus administrators to nominate new and experienced folks on their campuses who might want to submit a recruiting video or some quote. And we invited them to do that. We had 65 submissions. And our HR team got the privilege of watching all of those and ranking them and getting them into categories. And it was so much fun. So 25 words or less about what makes HEB ISD the place to be, or 25-second video, or a graphic. And so here are some of the results. You've already seen some of these in your presentation. But what we also do is we give the link to our website for each one so that folks can go directly there to apply, and we make sure they know we're hiring. And then we also put in all caps whatever the person's reason is that makes HEB ISD the place to be. So We always look for diversity. We want men, we want women, we want beginning of career, middle of career, end of career. We want to make sure that we're capturing everyone. And then not in your PowerPoint, because they're not able to transfer in PDF, I want to share with you 5 quick 25-second videos that I think you'll enjoy.
Lindsay Blanco, and I teach 3rd grade at Lakewood Elementary. I took over my current classroom mid-year, mid-pandemic, and this is my first year teaching. Being at Lakewood has been such a blessing because I receive constant support from the 3rd grade team, grace and patience from our admin team, and compassion, hard work, and daily laughs from my students. HEB truly is the place to be.
Ms. Hopwood from North Euless Elementary Kindergarten. HEB supplies structure in educating the whole child by establishing motivating but attainable goals for your school, grade level, classroom, and each individual student. From being on the receiving end of an education in HEB, I now get to offer what was given to me. That is why HEB is the place to be.
Hi, my name is Samantha Padilla, and I teach 6th grade English Language Arts and Reading at Midway Park Elementary in Euless. HEB is the place to be because of its diversity. Diversity in people, diversity in programs, and diversity in opportunity. In HEB, students and staff alike are encouraged to become lifelong learners in a community that celebrates the unique perspective that everyone brings to the table. HEB, the place to be.
Oakwood Elementary. The reason that HEB is the place to be is because they honor and celebrate diversity. As an African American teacher, I feel so grateful to be a part of a district that values all of the students who walk in every door and all of our staff members. I feel so grateful and blessed to be a part of such an amazing district.
My teachers make learning fun. My teacher makes me feel happy. We're all different, but we come together every day. HEB is the place for me. HEB is the place to be.
And those 5 individuals are also watching online because I let them know you would be seeing their videos tonight. So we're very thankful. And that last one, that was an original song that she wrote and sang. So, and there are lots more. And if you have a Twitter account, I encourage you to look at today's video because it was all about you, the Board of Trustees. I'm going to keep moving. I know we've got to move on, but involving employees in workforce branding is really what it's all about. If we can get the employees, to tell the story for us, it's a lot more meaningful than for us to tell it ourselves. And so we invite them in their new hire email to tweet about their experience, and then you see an example of somebody who did the next day. She tweeted about the fact that she was leaving a school in the area and coming to HEB. We also have recruiting cards on every campus in the front office prominently placed, and those have our access to the website where our applicant management system is, as well as our Twitter, and they can request additional cards when they run out. And then last and quickly, candidate outreach. This is a copy of our recruiting schedule from this last year, which was very virtual. We had 1 in person and the rest were virtual. But what was interesting is just like we were thrown into Canvas, a learning management system, that's my timer, a learning management system that we were unfamiliar with, so were all of these universities. And so our fantastic HR secretary, Amy Hawcom, had to create these online platforms. And so one of the things she did is she used some of the slides from our PR and marketing department talking about our employee survey and our staff and student survey. And then at our virtual job fairs, we continued to use our administrative teams that have always helped us. And some of these folks were actually juniors who engaged with us. And we now have relationships built with them, and we'll be keeping an eye on them. And then, of course, we reach out through local universities and give some talks to the education students about how to obtain their first job. But this is a partnership that Irene's been working on for 3 years with our Buinger Career and Technical Education Academy, our Ready, Set, Teach students. A lot of them are interested in bilingual education, and that's a critical shortage area. So we've been tracking them. We have relationships with them. Some of them have already started working in our extended day program while they're going to school. And so this is another way that we want to partner. And then lots of opportunities for digital interface with employees, future employees. And then this year we did send out mail interest packets to anybody who came and attended one of our virtual job fairs, since we couldn't hand them anything. And so these are some of the things that we sent to them to let them know about HEB. And then again, as I've mentioned, through our recruiting tools, through our Twitter contests, and through some of the referral programs, these are some of the gifts that we give that also are recruiting tools. And then probably the part that's most important to many of you is what's the data say? And so one of the goals we've had in our strategic plan for several years is that we want to make sure that, to the best of our ability, the makeup of our staff represents the makeup of our students. And so our new hire data for the last 4 years here, this is everyone in the district except for our auxiliary staff on this slide. And then this next slide is showing you just the new hires that are professional staff, like the folks that you saw at New Hire today, training today. And you see that we're continuing to increase the diversity of our staff. And then here's a breakdown of our professional staff over the last 4 years and the race and ethnicity that they represent. And then finally, some to-date data. Actually, it's not to-date anymore. It was to-date last Wednesday when we submitted it into board docs, but we've hired additional people. But we're at 33% of our ethnically diverse candidates in our professional hiring at this time. And then finally, this was our bulletin board last year. And it was in our HR department for a very important reason, because we want to see those faces when we walk by. And we want to remember that these are people, and they're our people, and we want to take outstanding care of them so they can take care of so they can take care of students. And we'll let you see what we have in store for this year. But the most important thing I want to say is, I want to say again thank you to our HR department who does all of this work on a daily basis. And again, thank you for the opportunity to share. Do you have any questions?
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Tuttle?
I don't have any questions, and I don't use Twitter. I have Twitter, but I get on intentionally because there is so much goodness. It's fun to scroll through all the positive, and I love how all of the principals have gotten on and started to retweet and share, and it's really neat to see because each campus has its own personality. The personality of the principal, and then they connect. Their assistant principals are on it a lot, and it's just been fun to see what's up on each campus. And I think as a board member, it's been helpful for me to keep up. And then I've emailed a couple of the principals and said, hey, when school starts back, I want to come see that or do that. So I think it's amazing what you all have done. I love the babies are the best, like just seeing all those little baby faces. And I'll just tell a quick story. I was at the dog park right before school ended, and of course everybody that's a stranger is a potential friend to me. So I start talking to this lady, and she has her daughters there, and she's in a really good mood, and we're just having a conversation. And one of her daughters said, Mom, you're in a really good mood or something. She goes, well, I got this best substitute award today. And I said, well, where do you sub at? And she goes, in HEB. And she just lit up like a Christmas tree, told me her story. I introduced myself. We had a good cry. But it was neat because she obviously didn't know who I was. But for her to brag on the district, I thought that was really amazing. She's kind of at the end of her career. I was like, can you please teach full time? And I don't think she wants to do that, but she wants to be a full-time sub. But I just thought that spoke volumes for how happy she was as a sub in a pandemic when we had a shortage, and she was at a campus that was really challenged. So
thank you for sharing.
Good work.
That.
It's awesome to hear the stories. I love it.
Awesome. Any other questions? Our leadership team has something we want to give each of you because we want you to continue to partner with us as well.
And while they're passing out those materials, we have had a request from our online audience to please be sure that we have our microphones on and that we are close enough so that folks online can hear us. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Tuttle, thank you so much for that information, and thank you to the entire HR staff. It was great. I mean, this is a great timing for this report because we got to see the results of all your hard work today when we went to all the new higher training classes. So that was great to see. And like you said, retention is always very important, especially at a time like this, where we know there's so much competition out there that it's really hard to. We have to fight really hard to keep the best people we can. So thank you so much to HR for all you're doing, and thank you for the report. All right, we're going to move on to action items. Approval of an agreement to purchase attendance credit, option 3 agreement, and to delegate contractual authority to the superintendent. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Typically, this time of year, we come to the board with a request for the board to approve the purchase of attendance credits from TEA as our method of equalization. We're considered a property wealthy school district through the calculation of property wealth and our weighted average daily attendance. And so with that calculation, it's either termed you're either property poor or property wealthy. Well, we meet the criteria of property wealthy. Fortunately, we're not at the point yet of a recapture district. But as a process, we still have to file this document for the purchase of the attendance credits. And things changed as a result of HB3. Because in the past, we would come to you with what the intent to set the tax rate was going to be, what we calculated the tax rate that we were going to ask you to approve. Well, that is no longer the case. TEA actually tells you what tax rate you're going to approve. And if you want to go above and beyond that, you have to then apply for a voter authorized tax rate election, a VATR. And so we're not at that point. So we will be coming to you when we start the process of budget adoption and tax rate setting with the calculated tax rate that we have submitted to TEA and that they have approved. What this document does now, rather than than actually giving the board the authorization to submit the contract for the purchase of the attendance credits for equalization, it gives the superintendent the authority to act on behalf of the board. Because if the board did not give the superintendent the authority, somebody from the board would have to sign or get an approval from TEA or a sign-on from TEA to be able to go in and approve and act on behalf of the board. So this is just an authorization that you as a board are acting to give Mr. Chapman the authority to approve this contract with the Texas Education Agency. You can recall we did this back in November, I believe, of last year. And so the contracts in the past were due by September 1 in order to achieve a credit for signing the contract early. With HB3, that went away. And so there's no longer the early attendance credits contract to approve, merely that we are the method of which we're equalizing our wealth. And so by doing this, you give Mr. Chapman that authority. It's due actually on January 15th, but because this is the time of year when we came to you with our approval process, we thought we'd keep it consistent. And so this is giving Mr. Chapman that authority that we're requesting to approve on your behalf. Be happy to answer any questions.
David, thank you for that information. I've got to commend David. This item was new to me, and so David Ndobi spent this morning with me going over it. I've been talking to David and getting additional information throughout the day, so I'm getting there. Thank you very much for helping me out. And I don't. It's not that I'm picking on you.
No.
I think that you haven't had a new board member in 4 years, and so some of this is routine after seeing it so many times. And to me, I'm just trying to get up to speed. So I've got a couple of questions just to get me there.
Okay, go right ahead.
So my understanding is this is to authorize Steve to purchase the attendance credits.
Right, to allow the district to utilize the option that the community actually approved In 2009, I believe it was September 28th of 2009, there was an election that was taken to the community on the equalization option that the district was recommending, and it was approved by the community in 2009. And so that process has been in place every year as we've approved this purchase of attendance credits. And so this is just an annual renewal of that.
So, and we would only have to purchase attendance credits if our revenue exceeded our entitlement?
Yeah, correctly.
Okay. And so, does our revenue exceed our entitlement?
Not at this point, because we still get state revenue along with our local revenue.
Okay. So, we don't intend to purchase any
No.
attendance credits?
Well, based on our calculations, we don't anticipate. It's not whether we intend to or not. It's whether we would anticipate. And based on the calculations that Mr. Williams and I have both run, we're not in a position where we would have to purchase attendance credits from TEA in order to equalize our wealth.
And that would fluctuate only because of population of students
Enrollment.
and
Right.
value.
And property value. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so the agreement to purchase the attendance credits that we intend to send in to TEA, will it look like it did last year?
No, it'll be substantially different because now it doesn't have the board approved signatures and all of those things.
Well, just the language.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Okay. So the thing that I'm always getting hung up on is it's when it says the agreement for the purchase of attendance credit, but we're not actually purchasing attendance credits. So
We are not anticipating having to do that. Again, I can't make a promise because if something happens and 2,000 kids don't show up, that could put us in a substantially different position financially than it is what we're anticipating. But we do not expect to lose additional students. So at this point, it would be a significant amount of student loss or property value gain that would put us in that position.
So it's just putting this on file in the event that we have to purchase attendance credits?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Garcia, because we are a property wealthy district, the Texas Education Agency does require us to choose one of those methods. We don't have an option on that. So.
Yes, and so we do have to file one of the options, one of the 5 options that are available. The best option in 2009, and it still stands today, is the purchase of attendance credits if we get in that position.
And that language in that agreement is from the Texas Education Agency, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if something changed, even though we're given authority now, if something changed that we actually did have to purchase, you would come back and tell us?
Oh, absolutely, yes. You're going to get monthly financial reports anyway, and if something changes significantly, we'll know that in September. And so,
yes, if we have to pay a recapture payment, we definitely will be having a conversation.
Absolutely, because that would be some intense changes. You would see that immediately.
So this is not obligating us to purchase the attendance credits?
No, not at this point.
All right. Well, I'm good. Thank you for all of the information today.
Right now, it's basically a very technicality that we're going through.
Absolutely, and we filed this document since 2009. I believe one year we had recapture before I got here, and that was about 247,000. I think we fell below that line in one time, but that was it.
Yeah, and it's just a requirement of TEA. It's a technicality.
Yes.
All right, so if there aren't any more questions, I'll take a motion of anyone who wants to read this recommendation.
When you do make the motion, please say I move in front of it.
Okay. Am I doing it? I move for the 2021-2022 school year, we delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code TEC 11.1511C4 to the superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, Subchapter A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the 2021-2022 school year to delegate contractual authority to obligate the school district under Texas Education Code TEC 11.1511C4 to superintendent solely for the purpose of obligating the district under TEC 48.257 and TEC Chapter 49, Subchapter A and D, and the rules adopted by the Commissioner of Education as authorized under TEC 49.006. Please vote. All right, and that motion passes. Item 11.02, approval and update of the 2021-2022 HEB-ISD List Texas Teacher Evaluation Support System, TTES.
And since we have brought to you 2 new assistant principals, we needed to update this. That's the only change that was made.
All right, are there any questions on this? I will accept a motion.
I move that the board approves the updated T-test appraisal as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, that the board approve the updated T-test appraisers as submitted. Please vote. All right, and that motion passes. Item 11.03, approval of revised strategic plan 2019 to 2024. Dr. Harrington.
Yes, thank you. In board docs, you had the red line version of the recommended changes of the strategic plan. Tonight, I'll review the rationale for those changes with you. All right, so goal 1, under goal 1, page 2. Let me move to that. All right. We've changed quality indicator from reading on grade level by the end of 2nd grade to early literacy. This will align with House Bill 3 terminology. Still on page 2, goal 1, under quality indicator 1.3, we have a new quality indicator 1.3, so we have inserted early numeracy. This is required as part of House Bill 3. The success measure, evaluation tools, and key strategies will mirror the current quality indicator 1.2. So there's that. Under goal, on page, and when we accept the changes, I do think that dead space will eliminate. The rest of the quality indicators 1.3 to 1.6 become 1.4 to 1.7. So we have that still under goal 1. And then on page 6, we have a minor change under the new 1.6. We removed utilize the student attendance tracking program. We will continue to use the student attendance tracking program. The current one we use is RAWI, and it has been very positive. But the first key strategy implements a district attendance policy and processes. If you follow the process and the process says you will utilize the student attendance tracking program, we felt we did not need to include that key strategy. Under goal 2, page 8, quality indicator 2.3 technology resources success measure G would change from 1.3 to 1 student device ratio to a 1-to-1, which again, as we move to the 1-to-1 ratio and realize we must maintain that 1-to-1 ratio. So we have that. And then along on that 2.3 technology resources, we added a new success measure L, develop and implement Google training plan for all appropriate staff. So we have that included also. Under goal 3, page 9, this was a minor change, but 100% of new hires was changed to 100% of staff, because as the they need to be trained to do the job that is currently in place, not necessarily the one that they took on when they first got the job. So we changed that to all staff. Under Goal 4, page 12, we inserted under Quality Indicator 4.1, Safe, Orderly, Healthy Learning Environment, a new success measure C, 100% of state mandated student safety and welfare training is provided to appropriate. This is in alignment to appropriate staff. This is in alignment with changes associated with Senate Bill 11. So that needed to be added. And then that obviously bumped the success measures. And then the final change, page 14. We had some minor changes here on 5.1. We added the term operational elections, and then we added the words bond and Vader under evaluation tools. Those were to differentiate between a Board of Trustees election and obviously elections to do with a Vader or a bond election, which we use the term operational election. And those are the changes that we had. Again, fairly minor, most associated with Senate Bill 11 and House Bill 3. Just some cleanup on the strategic plan. So any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I have a question on the one-to-one technology.
Yes.
How is that actually calculated? Do you take into account every single student in the district?
Yes. Yes. So when we're looking at that, we have to make sure that we have enough computers for every student that we would have a device. Now, that's not necessarily, that measure is saying that we have enough computers for them. It is not necessarily saying that each has to have one in their hand. It's saying we have to be at that ratio.
Are we planning on issuing an iPad to every student like we did last year?
Yes, but not an iPad K1 and then second, right? Second on will be the Chromebooks.
The Chromebooks.
Yeah. Now there are some levels are receiving laptops, but it's mostly Chromebooks at the
some device of some
yes.
sort. Okay. So I know, and I've heard this repeatedly, that we don't want the technology that we leaned so heavily on last year to become a crutch this year, in place of the in-person instruction. Mm-hmm. How do we make sure that that's not the case? Do we have any idea of how we monitor the technology usage? Let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. At some point in the year, for my son who went to CK Pre-K, I just stopped charging his iPad so it would die at some point during the day, because I was going crazy with the amount of time that he was spending on the iPad at school. Last year, it made sense. Okay, there were reasons for that. How do we make sure that that doesn't happen this year?
If the teachers are following the curriculum that we're using, they're going to be using the devices when they're appropriate, but not leaning on them. If I've got some small groups and I've got centers, I may have a center where some of the kids are using that as the teacher pulls a small group. So I'm going to take advantage of having that opportunity, but we're not going to be presenting lessons through the iPad. Now, how do we measure that? The only way we can, obviously, is the campus administrators, coordinators, all of us. We have to get out into the classes and see what's going on. But we're hoping to return to more of a normal HEB instruction. Now, we're going to take advantage of where it's appropriate, but we certainly don't want it to become a crutch. We don't need a babysitting tool.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do the administrators have any access to the screen time component to each of the individual devices to actually see the time on the device?
I know with GoGuardian they can do some of that with the Chromebooks. I believe the iPads they cannot.
It's just shut off?
The screen time, I don't know. I don't think they can follow it through GoGuardian, but I know the screen time feature will not work with the tool that we use to manage all of them so we can push out updates will not allow us to turn the screen time feature on. And so I had actually was talking to Scott about that today, because they were going to try and turn it on. They cannot.
It's just impossible.
It's impossible. I mean, right now, you never know what update changes that. Right now, with the management tool that we use, we cannot.
Well, let's keep that on the radar. If it becomes an option, that maybe something we want to look at.
Mm-hmm. Any other?
All right, any other questions? All right, I will accept a motion.
I move that the board approves the changes to the strategic plan as presented.
I have a motion and a second that the board approves the changes to the strategic plan as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. Okay, we are down to other business. Does any board member have an item that they'd like to place on a future board agenda? Seeing none, we'll go on to item 12.02, discussion of baseball fields at Meadow Park. I have had a conversation earlier today with the mayor of Bedford and also with Andy Cargile, and I believe that this issue that we were going to discuss has been resolved to everyone's satisfaction, so there's no need to discuss it at this time. So we will move on to open forum number 2. Thank you. All right, Miss Mary Lowe. If you could please state your name and address.
My name is Mary Lowe. My address is confidential. I do live in Tarrant County. I'm here as the chairman of Tarrant County chapter of Moms for Liberty. And I just want to thank you all for letting me address you all. Are any of you familiar with Moms for Liberty? So we're an organization that is a grassroots organization that's 30,000 people strong. And our goal is to educate parents how to exercise their constitutional rights, to regain their liberties and their ownership of their children's minds and bodies as the parent. And that is going to hurt the schools a little bit because the schools have become very comfortable with parents not being active in a very big way. So schools and teachers are either going to see us as a thorn or a blessing. But if you study all data in regards to education, you're going to find that the greatest threat to education is the separation of the child from the family. That when a family is intact and they are invested in a child, those children excel in their education. So I'm here to let you know that we also we will be attending every one of your school board meetings. We will be sitting in on your SHAC meetings. Parents will be, because we are wanting to establish a ground of accountability for what every school is doing. We are strongly concerned about the issues that you currently see taken up in the Congress, in the House, and in the Senate. We're concerned about what's happening in Washington. I'm concerned about the plan that our federal government has put out, the Education Department has put out on how to reopen your schools. And their emphasis is on race, establishing, I mean, if you'd like for me to read it to you, I'm happy to read it to you. But I think you all are aware of this. I think you're aware that you have SEL in your school, even though it was mandated as a means of providing counseling in the event of a crisis. SEL is now being used to indoctrinate our students. And parents are not happy with this, so we need some accountability there. It's not most often you go to school boards, parents go to the schools and say, we want to talk about CRT and we want to talk about SEL, and what we hear is, we're not doing that. And I'm here to tell you, I've read 50,000 documents that have been pulled from the districts in Tarrant County. It's in every one of the schools. It's in a Region 11. It comes from TEA. And there is a movement that you are seeing reflected by Toth's House Bill 3979, and you see it by the two pieces of legislation that are sitting in the legislative session now. So it's irrefutable.
Thank you.
Oh, is that my time limit? I'm sorry, I was not notified that there was a time limit.
Yeah, it was on the screen, but it's 3 minutes. Okay, well, what I read at the beginning of the meeting was 3 minutes.
Well, I'm going to continue talking because I'm not going to go away. And I do want, I heard some things, and I hope you would be appreciative of the feedback. I listened tonight. I've been to a board meeting at almost every district in Tarrant County. And what I would say is I hear good things. I hear a board who is working well with each other and that's wanting to be accountable. I hope you will welcome my contact and sit with me. I heard concerning things. I didn't hear House Bill 3979 discussed in the change in your curriculum. But I did hear Twitter. You're right. I have over 300 screen grabs of your teachers talking about race, education of race. So, can we work together? Can we work together?
All right, well, thank you for your time and thank you for coming. We appreciate your.
We'll see you at the next meeting.
Okay, we'll see you there. Okay. All right, we don't need a second closed session, correct? All right, so that is the end. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Yes.
There's the closed.
Just remember your plus deltas, please.
She had a folder stuff.
Cicely, could you come to the podium, please?